bring something up with your partner and you think that you're being kind and cautious in the way that you're speaking and you're choosing your words carefully and you're really trying to resolve an issue, and he gets mad. Instead of actually leaning in and engaging with what you're saying, he says something like, we just have communication issues, or something like, you just need to learn how to communicate better. Maybe he doesn't even say it aggressively or meanly, but it hits you because you're sitting here wondering, is this really me that doesn't know how to communicate? When something's framed as communication issues, it sounds so reasonable and so fair. And the truth is, a lot of couples therapists even use that exact same framework. So it sounds really plausible. Communication issues means that it's both of you contributing to the problem, right? It means you need to work together. But do you ever notice how suddenly he's not talking about the communication issues within the relationship anymore, but actually he's talking about what you could have done better? Your tone, your timing, your delivery, it's you. And he explains it to you probably in the most reasonable way. So when you walk away from this conversation, you think, okay, I need to communicate better. I get it, but do you? Let's slow that way down, because I'm telling you, communication issues gets used a lot to just cast abusiveness aside and to ignore control. I'm Lisa Sonni. I'm a certified relationship expert. I'm the author of 4 books, and I specialize in abusive and toxic relationships. So if you've ever left a conversation feeling like you were the problem, but you couldn't really understand it, hit subscribe, because I expose the tactics of abusive men so that you can see through it and figure out what's really going on and see the patterns. I help women break trauma bonds, exit these relationships, and rebuild themselves after they've left. One of the most impressive tactics of an abusive man is the way that they shift everything from their behavior to your delivery or your reaction. But let's focus on your delivery. If you tell him something like, hey, you know what? It really hurt my feelings when you ignored me all night. He'll ignore you again. Or he'll say something like, God, why are you coming at me?
Why are you always trying to pick a fight? Can't you ever just be happy?
Do you see how we're not talking about how he ignored you? And now we're talking about you, your response, how you brought it up, why you're never happy. It's a really big issue now, isn't it? If you say something like, I need more consistency. I want to spend more time with you. You're so hot and cold. Can we just be more consistent? He'll say something like, God, you're never satisfied.
Nothing I ever do is good enough for you.
And we're not talking about consistency anymore, are we? I feel like the most ironic part is that he's very consistent in being inconsistent, but he'll shift it from the topic, his consistency, to your expectations. That's the problem, right? You have these unmeetable expectations. If you tell him that he was disrespectful, he's going to be like, God, you're so sensitive. You're always picking at something. You're always in your feelings. You're so emotional. Not talking about what he did, but we are talking about your emotional reaction. Do you see the pattern? How the content of what you're saying is never the thing that needs to be talked about? Absolutely not, because God forbid we hold him accountable or he addresses any issues that he's bringing into the relationship. No. We have to change the subject. We have to make it where now we're talking about you, your tone, your delivery, when you brought it up, how you brought it up, that you brought it up at all. If he makes your delivery the problem, then he never has to deal with the actual problem at all. He gets to avoid accountability. And abusive relationships are often really just a game in how an abusive man can avoid responsibility and accountability for anything. And one of the ways that an abusive man does this is he creates standards that you could never possibly meet. And this is where so many women get stuck, right? Because you do try. We try to meet the standards. A man will say, I want X, and we try our best to meet X, not realizing that it's either unmeetable or he'll tell you that he never said X to begin with. Women go through all kinds of things, picking better times, planning conversations, choosing the exact right words, not using the words he told you not to use, reading dictionary definitions, reading all kinds of books, using ChatGPT to have the perfect conversation, say it in a way that's unemotional, say it in a way that's not going to trigger him. You're doing everything that you possibly can to do this in a way that represents healthy communication. But it never works, does it? He'll still say you're coming at him, you're attacking him, you're emotional, you're always bringing up old shit. He shuts down, he flips it back on you. Like, come on, we know the drill. You've done this. You've been on this roller coaster. You feel wrong all the time, but it's not because you're doing it wrong. It's because the standard keeps moving. If you're direct with him, you're aggressive. If you're calm with him, God, why are you so passive aggressive? If you wait until the perfect right time, you're always holding things in and filled with resentment. If you bring it up right away, you're overreacting, you're dogpiling him, you're coming at him with too much. There is no version of you that gets to exist in this relationship and be heard and have your place. And this is because it's not a communication issue to begin with. He is trying to control you. He just doesn't want to engage with what you're saying. He doesn't want to hear it. All of your feelings, God, they're so inconvenient. And one of the best traps that these guys set is we both need to work on it. That's why communication issues is such a good one, because it frames it as mutual, which again is the basis for couples therapy. So it works really well. We both have to show up. We both have to do differently. But let's talk about what you need to do differently. It sounds so mature and so fair, and you're willing to go first because you're exhausted. So let's work on our issues, but you go first. Sure, let's talk about me. Let's talk about all the things I need to do. But notice, you're never going to end up talking about what he needs to do differently. So women take this on and they read, and you probably read that god-awful book, The 5 Love Languages, and men are from Mars and women are from Venus, and all of these books that are supposed to help you, and you're not getting anywhere. You're trying, and what does he do? Nothing. He stays exactly the same because we both always meant you. You're the one putting in all the effort. And the crazy thing is that over time, you start to believe that if you can change, if you can self-reflect, if you can get the right words, there's going to be this perfect spot where everything gets better in the relationship again. One of the worst parts of all of this is that you think he just doesn't understand. So you keep trying to communicate better to get him to understand something that he's understood the entire time. This works for him. The goal was never mutual understanding. It was to get you to not focus on him and focus on you. And it works. And here's a spot where things can get really, really clear for women. When something actually matters to him, he gets it, right? Ooh, suddenly he understands. He can communicate very clearly. He can respond quickly. He can address your emotion. He can understand what you're saying. And he adjusts his behavior. So it's not that he doesn't understand you. Do you see that? I want you to just stop and say to yourself, yeah, I see the pattern. It's not that he doesn't understand you. It's that he does understand you, but it doesn't benefit him. So when you get really clear with him, when you bring this stuff to light, it doesn't create change. But your withdrawal might, your silence might, you pulling back might, right? You not doing everything for him suddenly, that might affect him. But to be clear, it's temporary because none of these things create actual change because the cycle needs to be where he understands you and then doesn't, and then gaslights you and then is sweet to you. A cycle of abuse always includes good and bad, and the good exists to facilitate the bad. When you do things that actually affect him, that matters, but only temporarily. Your words alone do not affect him, and definitely not your feelings. He's not going to respond to communication, but he will respond to impact. They need consequences. That's why threatening to leave them never does anything. You actually do need to leave them. It's not easy. I know it's not easy. I never say leave as if it's just this easy thing to do, but you can learn how to leave. We don't need to do what's easy. We need to do what's hard if that's what's best for us. And being in an abusive relationship is not what's best. Being with a man who uses communication and this sort of like mutuality to frame everything as both of you, that's all garbage, and that's not benefiting you. That's harming you, both in the short term and the long term. In the short term, you're crying and you're confused. In the long term, you completely lose your voice. You actually start to wonder, was I too harsh? Is this me? Do I not know how to communicate? Did I say it wrong? Should I have waited? Should I have said it differently? Did I use the wrong words? This is why you're replaying conversations and you're editing messages and you're thinking about when you should bring things up and you're walking on friggin' eggshells. You used to manage him and his feelings, but now you've added in managing yourself into this. And that's really the cost of this, right? Nothing ever gets resolved, things stay the same, and you keep trying new things in different ways to try to make something stick and to get him to understand when he already understands. He's doing all of this to disconnect you from your own instincts, and the craziest thing is it works. Every single time you speak up, you advocate for yourself, you actually think, hey, I'm clear on my feelings, and you say it, He tells you that you're wrong and he shuts you down. And this teaches you that you're doing it wrong when you're not. And we treat this like it's a skills issue. He just doesn't know how to communicate. We're back to that. Communication problems are a real thing, right? Two people can absolutely have communication issues, but that's not going to be mistaken for abuse. When people are trying to communicate, they're trying to understand each other. Communication is also about listening. In fact, listening or active listening is probably the center, the absolute core of what communication actually is. And what that would look like in a healthy relationship is two people speaking and listening to each other and taking feedback and then applying it. Everybody's adjusting, everybody's listening, you're finding compromise and collaboration. But that's not what this is, right? This is actually just one person controlling the terms of the conversation and how communication happens in your relationship. When one person decides when you're having conversations and what words are appropriate to use and when the conversation is over, that is control. Do you ever notice the more you try to meet in the middle, the more you end up just standing there like a chump alone? Because there was never a middle. There was only ever his side. So when he says this garbage, like, we just have communication issues, I want you to pause and really think. Ask yourself, is he actually listening? Is he actually engaging with what I'm saying? Or is he shutting this conversation down with communication issues? Is he just redirecting this back to me? Because if every single conversation ends with you questioning yourself, you're not having communication issues. I promise you that. So if you're realizing that this is your loop, this is what you've been doing, you're living in a world of communication issues, and you've been trying to figure out the right way to say things for however many years, you're in the right place. The work is not becoming a better communicator. The work is learning how to let go of a man like this. I teach women how to trust their own voices again, how to not need his validation, how to step out of these arguments, how to not justify, argue, defend, or explain yourself. That's what I help women do. Step out of the loop, don't ruminate, stop banging your head against a wall, doing the same thing over and over and over again. You're over-functioning in a relationship that was never mutual to begin with. So if you are ready to do the work like this, if you're actually ready to change your life, work with me one-on-one or in my group coaching programs. And if this made something click, hit subscribe and leave a comment. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.